All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Friday, September 26th. We got a 14-game MLB slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so what I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, if you do want to roll with me or if you do want to fade me, all of that absolutely free down in the pinned comment. In terms of how we did yesterday, a decent day. We go 3-2. The Reds, Astros, and that Royals and Angels first five under 5.5 had to sweat it, but those three come through. The Rays did not, and then the Marlins and Phillies. We had that over 8.5, right? One run was scored in that game, so not exactly our best look there, but a 3-2 night nonetheless. Also had a really good Thursday football night, so we shall take it. But like I said, we got a 14-game slate to dive into. Let's go ahead and dive into game number one. Before we do, guys, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking here. We got the Cubs taking on the Cardinals here in this spot. Now, overall, I would say that this Cubs team is far better squad. I think that we could probably mostly agree on that. But at the same time, minus 182 is a pretty hefty price tag to be paying for this squad, especially with Colin Rea, who's definitely had his ups and downs. Now, he's really good against righties. I think it's going to be like 5 or 6 righties in this lineup today, so that's good. In the St. Louis offense, I'm not all that thrilled about. So I do still think I lean towards the Cubs, but it's going to be tough to get there with a minus 182 price tag. A spot that I could consider would be Cardinals team total under. I don't necessarily love the idea of them scoring a bunch of runs out there. So maybe that's something that we consider. Miles Michaelis is on the other side of things. I don't like him on the road, so maybe we could just kind of split this and say Cubs team total over, Cardinals team total under, and it's like two ships passing in the night, right? So kind of a weird one here just because of the odds, but that's technically what I would be leaning. I also don't mind Ian Happ over hits, runs, and RBIs. He's going to see a lot of fastballs, a lot of sinkers, a lot of curves. Those are really good pitches for him. In fact, against the curveball, which Michaelis throws 17.3% of the time, he has a 7.8 runs above average over the last 30 days. And he's also batting 306 against righties with a 1024 OPS. So maybe that's a decent spot to look at as well. But like I said, well, also I have said, you've heard a lot of maybes in this game, is kind of a weird one with the price. Let's move on. Next up, we have the Nationals taking on the White Sox. Now, truth be told, I'd look at this matchup and usually say, yeah, I don't think that there's anything that we actually like in this game. But there's a strong chance we end up rolling with the Nats here. I do like the Cade Cavalli matchup, which is obviously who's pitching today. He's going up against Yoendrys Gomez, who I don't love all that much. And throw in the fact that Cavalli's actually been decent at home. He's going to throw a ton of fastballs. He'll throw in the knuckle curve, but also the changeup. Going up against this White Sox lineup for a young pitcher like him, to be able to rely on fastball changeup as your two pitches to be able to get guys out here seems like a good deal. So yeah, I do like the idea of the Nats in this spot. You can get them for in the minus 120s right now, so I'll lean in that direction. Also, don't mind the idea of their team total over. Honestly, I mean, I have this game right now pegged right around 5-4 for the Nats. So yeah, that would be over that 8.5 number, right? So let's go with the Nationals and the over in this spot. I don't believe we had any player props specifically called out. Let's see here. Actually, Chase Meidroth. I used to call him Chase Meredith. That was wrong for a long time. Don't mind his unders if you can get a good price. In terms of his hits, runs, and RBIs right now, we have it up. Let's see what it is. Let me pull it up for you. Sorry, this is taking a little bit longer than normal. Yeah, under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs right now was, I believe it was plus money, if I'm not mistaken. Plus 105. That could be something to consider as well today. I don't like him in the pitch mix for the fastball and changeup. Real quick, guys, before we do move on with the rest of the games, I wanted to talk to you about ESPN Bet and the new offer they have for new players. Right now, new players can bet $10 and get $100 in bonus bets. Perfect timing for the NFL season. What I love about ESPN and what they've done, first off, there is tons of value in terms of the odds that they're offering. But what I love is the fact that they've made some serious upgrades to their platform. If we remember ESPN Bet, a year ago or so, there was some clunkiness. I liked the odds, the same game parlay odds, and everything like that were great, but there was some clunkiness in terms of user interface. They have absolutely wiped it and now gone a new direction where they really personalize it for the actual user, which I think is very, very cool. They also have the fan center, right, which involves your fantasy team and any teams you follow or anything like that, making it easier for you to access that, which I think that we're all about, right? If they know that I like taking first five unders and I log in and on the homepage, they make it less clicks for me to get to the first five under. Absolutely love that. So guys, go check out the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment. I'm always telling you more books is better. Obviously, you keep that bankroll the same size, but now you can actually odd shop and get the best prices, and especially in a time like MLB season and NFL season where volume is pretty much at its all-time highest, you're going to want to be getting the best prices possible, right? So add another book to the arsenal. Again, that link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Get that deal. Bet 10, get $100 in bonus bets. That's 10xing that first $10 that you put in. ESPN Bet link down below. All right, Philadelphia taking on Minnesota. So big old pitching discrepancy here. We have Joe Ryan on the bump for Minnesota going up against Taijuan Walker, who I'm not exactly the biggest fan of. I also have seen Aaron Nola's name out there, so we'll see who ultimately gets the start. But either one of those guys is not exactly someone that I want to trust with my monies, right? And we have a pretty hefty price tag behind this Philadelphia team at minus 176. So if I had the psycho alert alarm, I'd probably sound it here, but I don't mind maybe a sprinkle on Minnesota. I mean, in terms of where these two teams are heading into the playoffs, the Philadelphia Phillies have already clinched the playoff berth, right? And then the Minnesota Twins are already, I guess, out of the playoffs. They have like the third, or I think they have either the third or fourth worst record in the entire league. So this game technically has no marbles at stake here. Why wouldn't the better pitcher give them an upper edge? Now, if he's going to pitch deep into the game, that's obviously a question worth asking. And this is probably not a spot in which, even though I lean the Twins, I'm not going to drop my cojones on the table and roll with it. But maybe there's something to be said for like an under, because even with Nola or Taijuan Walker, I don't necessarily think that this Twins offense is, tremendous, right? So yeah, maybe it's a spot in which we say, hey, Joe Ryan, go do your job. We can consider an under here overall. Yankees taking on Baltimore here. Will Warren on the bump for the Yanks, going up against Trevor Rogers, who has been fantastic this season. He's pitching for the Blue Jays here. He's got a 1.35 ERA. He's 9-2. His WHIP is sub at 0.9. It's at like 0.87, 0.88, something like that. So this guy's obviously been phenomenal. Now his numbers do elevate a tad when on the road, like his whip goes above 1, but it's still right around 1, right? His average against goes up to 190. I think it's 8, which on the season he's got an average against of 170. Will Warren, though, on the other hand, is a little bit more comfortable at home. I don't necessarily want to sit here and say that Will Warren can compete with Trevor Rogers, but given the fact that Trevor Rogers did just recently pitch against the Yankees, I don't think it's all that crazy to consider the Yankees at this price tag here today, at home against a Baltimore team that had a pretty rough series there against Tampa Bay. So the fact that we can snag the Yankees, who I would still say are by far and away the better team than Baltimore, at minus 142, you might have me sold there. So I'll lean Yankees in this spot. I also don't mind their team total over. And again, it's just a sense of potential regression coming from Trevor Rogers, right? Even though people have been saying, and I've said at times, that this guy might regress, and you've been saying that for so long, and he hasn't, that doesn't mean that the next start out couldn't be bad, right? And throw in the fact that the situation is, like I mentioned, that he did just pitch against this Yankees team, in which he pitched really well, albeit, but you're seeing this team for two straight starts here. Now you're in Yankee Stadium. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to take a peek at that New York side of things and their team total over. In terms of what we have for player props here, I like Aaron Judge in his pitch mix against. I also like him against a lefty pitcher in terms of Trevor Rogers. So maybe that's something to consider. But obviously, when you're looking at a guy like that, one of the best bats and players in the damn league, you're going to be paying a pretty hefty price tag. So we'll see what we can get Aaron Judge for. Luckily, I would say that, if we do take some overs, 2.5 or 1.5 bases or something, with that 2.5 specifically hits, runs, and RBIs, you're most likely getting plus money just because of kind of the up and downness that he's had. He hasn't been on this entire season of a stretch of just raking, right? So at least that's the benefit and somewhat of a discounted price tag for a guy that any given night can hit that over 2.5. Next up, we have Toronto taking on Tampa Bay. Shane Bieber going up against Adrian Hauser. I will say this. Now, Toronto, I think, is by far and away the better team. They're coming off of a rough series against the Red Sox. But I will say that, they're in most likely a nice bounce back situation here, right? At home against Adrian Hauser, who has had a good year, but definitely will pitch a few good innings, then blow up at times. I keep saying I will say. This is a spot in which Adrian Hauser could potentially pitch fairly well. Now, it's not enough to get me to Tampa Bay or to trust them or anything like that. So I lean Toronto. I lean Toronto's team total over all that. But this is an Adrian Hauser who's going to throw a sinker like 50% of the time, right? Toronto, they're really good at hitting a bunch of pitches. The sinker is not one of them. They're 29th over the last 30 days in terms of hitting that sinker, runs above average per 100 sinkers seen. So, yeah, maybe this is a spot in which someone can get a little psycho and back the Rays or something like that. But you have one team that's gearing up for the playoffs. They're at home off of a stinky series against a divisional rival. Now they have another one walking into town here. I see this being a nice spot to back Toronto. Now, minus 187, is that the price tag that I'm looking for or praying for? No, right? I would play this probably at minus 160, and that's it. But I think that price is long gone. So maybe there is a little bit of a way to get to Toronto team total over. But again, that sinker is going to be kind of like a thorn in our side, I would say, for the majority of this game. But the minute you get to the bullpen and all that, I do think that there's a chance. Now, obviously, the Rays bullpen have some good numbers overall, but I would say typically speaking, this Toronto team, you keep going through and get deeper and deeper into the game. This lineup at any given moment can kind of take the top off the jar. Red Sox taking on the Tigers. Looks like Kyle Harrison is going to make his, I think, second start, third outing. Is that right for this Red Sox team? Casey Mize on the other side of things. Kyle Harrison throws a lot of fastballs. There's two things here. Tigers struggling against the fastball, but they hit lefties really well. Kyle Harrison, like I said, throws a fastball, but he is a lefty. I do think that this is a spot in which we could potentially back this Tigers squad. Do I like doing it? No. Right before the season concludes, my Boston Red Sox, no, I hate all that, right? But at the same time, again, he is a lefty, and I'll say that he overperformed in that last start for the Red Sox. So to me, this is a spot in which we could potentially take a peek at the Tigers. Now, in terms of where the playoff standings lie right now, this Tigers team is a game up on the Astros. I think it's a game up on the Astros of holding on to that last wild card spot. The Red Sox, I think they need to win either one or two more games to clinch their wild card. So both these teams are going to care heavily about this game. That's why I don't mind the idea of that plus money behind the Tigers because again, this seems like it could be somewhat of a coin flippy spot. You're getting plus money on one side, and what I think is probably in all things considered heavy juice with Kyle Harrison on the mound on the other. So give me the Tigers here. I don't mind the over in this spot either. Right now it's in at 8.5. I could easily see this being a 4-4 type game, and someone has to score the ninth one to go out there and win it, obviously. Cleveland taking on Texas. Cleveland finally comes to a halt there in that run that they were on. They're still, I don't even know what it is, like 12-2 in their last 14, something like that. But they do lose yesterday 4-2 to the Tigers. Now they take on Texas. This Texas squad is a little interesting, right? I've been saying it for the last week and a half or so, 10 days, that they really did just kind of piss down their leg. They were in a really nice spot to potentially go out there and get into the playoffs, and they get swept by the Astros, and it was like no looking back after that, or no looking forward, we should say, right? Today we have Jack Leiter on the mound going up against Slade Ciccone. I would say that Ciccone has the upper hand here. There's more lefties in this lineup than righties on the Texas side of things, and he's pretty good. I mean, he's got a 1.08 whip, a 217 average against with a 23% K rate against lefties. There's also the switch hitter in Jonah Heim, right? He's going to be batting from the left side today. So, yeah, I think there's going to be 5 or 6 lefties. Give me Cleveland to get right back on the train. The only problem I have, and you've heard me say this a couple times in this video today, is the price. Like minus 151 for a Cleveland team that I know that they were on and still technically on a scorching run. I still don't necessarily believe in them to be able to score in the crunch time or the big moments or all that. I know it's kind of crazy because they've been doing it for like a month now, but to me that price tag is a little expensive, especially with that total down at 7.5. Kind of tells me that Jack Leiter might be able to go out there and pitch fairly well. So this could be like a 4-3 game or something like that, in which, yeah, I think Cleveland can win, getting the, I know it's kind of contradicting what I just said, but getting the hits and runs when they need to because they've been such a good team. But I don't think that it's going to be like runs galore against this Texas team. So I'll lean towards Cleveland as well as the under. Maybe there's a spot in which we took a look at like Texas's team total under, right? Because again, I do like the idea of Slade Ciccone out there at home against a bunch of lefties. Next up, we have Miami taking on the Mets. Sandy Alcantara on the bump, going up against Brandon Sproat. Sandy Alcantara at home has honestly kind of turned this season around for him, at least from his home numbers, right? Because we look at him overall, and yeah, he was not the Cy Young winner. Obviously, injuries and everything like that, like kind of sad. And if you remember how good Sandy was in what 2022 was it? Comment Sandy in the comments right now because he obviously was filthy, and now he's just kind of turned into someone that you never know exactly what you're gonna get. But that being said, like I said, his home numbers have been pretty damn good. 1.1 WHIP, a 224 average against, strikeout rate of just under 20%, a walk rate of 6%, and a ground ball to fly ball rate of 1.6. It didn't start off that good, so obviously he's been pitching a little bit better at home. The problem is you have this Mets team that is just a really good offense right now, right? And you have a price tag that doesn't make all that much sense to me. Maybe it's because they go from playing and scoring a bunch of runs in Chicago now to Miami. Maybe that's the reason, the travel and all that. But, I sit there and I look at this spot and I say, well, Miami's coming back from Philadelphia. And again, we're not talking about crazy, crazy travels, but ultimately, even with the pitcher on the mound for the Mets, I still expect the Mets to score some runs. So I'm going to take a peek at the Mets on the money line here. They have the better bullpen, the better bats for sure. And at any given moment, even though I was giving Alcantara some flowers here for being, good at home, at any given moment, he can let up a decent amount of runs. So I like the Mets in this spot, but I'm not going to turn a blind eye to the over either. Maybe it's an over for the Mets team total. But again, it's not like this Mets bullpen is phenomenal. I think that they're better than this Marlins team. And then Sproat on the other side of things, it's like, yeah, he's been good, but at the same time, can we fully trust him? I think not. So I lean towards the Mets as well as the over. And I like Juan Soto today as well, if we can take a peek at some of his overs. Atlanta taking on Pittsburgh here. Pittsburgh coming off of a loss yesterday to Cincinnati. Cincinnati wins 2-1. We got a little lucky there with our Reds play because that was obviously a pretty damn close game. In terms of what we're looking at from an Atlanta side of things, I do think that they are the better team than Pittsburgh. Starting pitching today on the Braves side of things is going to be Joey Wentz against Mitch Keller. Mitch Keller's actually been pretty damn good on the road this year and good against righties. So for the price, I actually do kind of lean towards Pittsburgh, while also, like I already acknowledged, there is one team that is the clear-cut better squad. But Atlanta against righties hasn't been all that phenomenal. Against the slider, they've been good, but against the fastball, not so much. So yeah, there is definitely a way to get to the Pirates today. I just don't know if I can fully trust it. So this is one where I'm clearly on the fence and not all that confident, but I don't love the idea of Joey Wentz. I just think that this is a better Atlanta squad, but Mitch Keller on the road could give them a chance. So yeah, kind of a weird one. Give me Pittsburgh and I guess the under. Again, kind of a fence game for me. All right, Milwaukee taking on Cincinnati. We got Quinn Priester going up against Zach Littell. Decent pitching matchup here. I don't mind, kind of off gut reaction, a first five under. I think that Priester could pitch fairly well against this Red squad, and I would say the same thing with Littell against the Brewers. Even though the Brewers are a very good team, he does have 57 plate appearances against them in his career, an expected average against of 264, expected slugging 366, xWOB of 299. Kind of mediocre numbers, right? But on the other side of things, like I said, an under, realistically, if Quinn Priester goes out there and deals, we'd be on a fast track to it. 55 plate appearances against for him, 184 average against, an expected batting average against 274, a WOBA of 289, expected 337. So yeah, again, a little bit better than Littell, I would say, but still fairly mediocre, which isn't a good thing. I'm not saying that as a good thing, but I do think both these pitchers can and will probably pitch fairly well, especially from a pitch mix perspective. We have the sinker coming in from Quinn Priester, we know that, as well as the slider. Those should be fairly good pitches. We can look at from Zach Littell, the splitter. That's actually one of the worst pitches. I think it's the second worst pitch that the Brewers are hitting, as well as the slider. They hit the slider middle of the pack in the league. So first five under is what I'd look at. It is a big price tag, but I still think the Brewers at home, kind of ramping up for the playoffs, keeps them in this one, because if you look at it from kind of a scoped out view, this Reds team is still heavily trying to make the playoffs. They're just a game back in the wild card. They pretty much need like a Mets loss and them to win, and that type of thing, or a couple of those to overtake them. So this should be a competitive game, which is kind of why, again, I kind of like the under, just because we should see these pitchers come in with some serious intensity. So while the Brewers have more of a chance, I would say, to hit Littell, I think that there's a chance that he comes in with some intensity. And I like Quinn Priester against a Red squad that's not exactly, hitting the seams off the ball, right? So first five under, or first three under, depending on what better odds you can get per run in a sense. But I also lean towards the Brewers, even with all that juice. Angels taking on the Astros. The Astros finally come through for us yesterday. We took them in all three games against the Athletics, so it was not a profitable affair, but we did take them yesterday and ended up having actually a big game. Now we have Kyle Hendricks on the bump against them for the Angels, going up against Jason Alexander. And the Astros are still what I'm looking at here. Minus 145, though, is the price tag. But I do look at this and I say, okay, well, we just talked about how the Reds are trying to get in the playoffs and whatnot. This Astros team's in the exact same situation, and the Angels are like 15 games out of the wild card. They're definitely not getting in, right? So give me the Astros in this spot simply because I believe that they need to turn it on a little bit to make the playoffs. You're talking about a team that I want to say, what, 2 weeks ago were leading their division? After they swept Texas, right? Yeah. So then the Mariners come into town and they sweep them, and it's like, whoa, things just flipped on their head, right? And the Astros are out of the playoff picture if it started right now. So pretty big game and series for them here this late in the season. Give me the Astros in this spot. If they come back to bite us, then we're probably looking at them on the DMB graveyard for sure because we have lost some serious coin with them lately. I also don't mind their team total over it. Kyle Hendricks, not a guy that I'm looking to back whatsoever. George Kirby, Emmett Sheehan are the pitchers here in this Seattle and Dodgers matchup. Dodgers coming off of a series against Arizona. They took, what, two of three, if my memory serves me correct, but they scored 8 runs yesterday. Seattle coming off of a easy series in a sense against the Rockies. Now, both these squads are looking like they're playoff teams as of right now. Seattle kind of overtook Houston for that spot, and they clinched their playoff berth, as did the Dodgers. Though I don't think the Dodgers have fully clinched the series yet mathematically. Maybe the division yet. They might have actually, because I think they're like 2 or 3 games above San Diego now. But either way, both these teams leading their divisions and probably want to stay like that heading into the playoffs, obviously. So George Kirby gives the Seattle Mariners a huge advantage here. And just given the total, I would say that the odds makers are telling us that he pitches fairly well against this squad. I'm not one to be this late in September and still fading the Dodgers offense, but I do believe in George Kirby. So I'm going to lean Mariners. It's a little dicey because, at any given moment, they have some of the best talent, and especially with Ohtani and Betts at the top of the order against this pitch mix, the fastball, sinker, slider. They're really good against those three pitches. I'm telling you right now, there's a chance that George Kirby gets hit around, but with some, playoff gears turning in the head, I do think that there's some more intensity on the pitcher side of things, and we've already kind of talked about that in multiple games today. Emmett Sheehan also not that good on the road. He's going to go fastball, slider. 2 pitches that the Mariners are hitting well right now, so yeah, I think this is a spot for the Mariners. Do I love it? No, but at least the total's down there at 7, so they're not telling us that this Dodgers team is likely in a sense to go off, which tells me that this is more of a pitching duel, and I'll take Kirby over Sheehan. All right, is it too little too late for the Diamondbacks here? They're 2 games back on the wild card, and they're playing a team that is in the wild card right now, and they've clinched their spot, right? Padres. So in terms of who we have pitching today, for the Diamondbacks, we're looking at, I believe it is Zach Gallen, who, like we said yesterday, potentially was going to go yesterday, ended up not going, but he's going up against Yu Darvish. Both these guys are in very similar situations, right? It's like, yeah, we know that they have some serious top end talent, but it's not always showing up. And this Padres team at home obviously is going to be a little bit better. And against a righty, they're going to be a little bit better. So I think this is probably a spot in which we could still consider Padres. That said, I'm not going to sit here and tell anyone that, this Diamondbacks offense wouldn't be able to get to Yu Darvish. His numbers aren't all that phenomenal against them in his career, but they're raking lefties right now, this Diamondbacks team, especially lefties on the road. They're facing a righty, lefties at home. They're facing a righty on the road. So wrong hand, wrong spot. Give me the Padres, but I don't mind that over. I know that we have 2, like I said, really talented pitchers on the mound, but both of them bad against lefties. There's a lot of lefty/switch hitters in both of these lineups. We could see some runs today, and it's at 7.5. I don't hate the idea of some runs coming in. Even if this gets to like 3-3 and we head to the bullpens, I still like Arizona's bullpen to give up a couple more, right? So give me the over as well as the Padres. I did really try and back my boy Gallen, just could not get there. San Fran taking on Colorado. This is a quick one here. We do have Kai Tang, who's been a guy that I've liked to fade, but he's going up against Herman Marquez, who is, I don't even like to fade because the odds are never good enough, but he's fadeable. I would say this is a spot in which we can maybe consider an over. The Giants are probably the look, but ultimately, they're a crazy, crazy price tag for us. Honestly, not a team that I think is all that phenomenal. So, quick one there. I'd look at the Giants or the over, but that Giants being a parlay piece. I wouldn't even risk like the run line or first five run line because, again, don't know how much I can back Kai Tang. Now, if he's going to be in a good situation, it's going to be at home here against the Rockies, but ultimately, again, not exactly a spot that I'm loving. But guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you rocking with me while I am on the road here. We're doing the full game breakdowns, which I know you guys love, and we're trying to grind it out for you guys. So really, really, really do appreciate it. Make sure to check out all the NFL content that is coming on the channel as well. Catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.